Good afternoon and welcome to UMedTV. My name is Kemal Erkan, and today is going to be another political series that we are going to have. This will be our sixth episode, and I'm going to have our current insurance commissioner, Trinidad Navarro, who's going to join us, and I am going to bring him in. Let's see. And hopefully everyone is able to hear us okay. All right, Trinidad Navarro is with us. Trinidad, welcome to our show. How are you doing? We were able to hear you earlier, but I think something just happened.
Maybe I wasn't speaking loud enough, but I'm here.
It's good. It's good now.
Okay.
Right. Well, it's good to see you. First of all, you and I believe it's been a long time, 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago.
It's been a while.
Your first terms, I remember being in your office, and we also worked with your office very closely with being a healthcare provider and having a medical billing revenue cycle management organization. We have a lot of connection. We have to reach out to your office a lot, not a lot of connection, but we have to reach out to your office a lot, and they are helpful, and we do actually enjoy working with your team, and sometimes maybe we bother them a little bit more. But today it's going to be about you, because the elections are coming in 2024, and you are going to run for the third term, right?
Yes, sir, I am. Yeah.
So you are in this position already for 7 years. Most Delawareans, maybe they already know more about you, but we want to kind of get to know more. If you can just give us some background on you, and then I'll have some questions after that.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say marhaba.
Marhaba.
I'm going to, forgive me if I mess this up, but Abin Trinidad Navarro. So my Turkish friends from the American Turkish Friendship Association tell me that means, hi, my name is Trinidad Navarro. So if it was poorly done, I apologize.
Very good, very good.
Well, yeah, I tried. So, yeah, I've been the commissioner now for 7 years. I really, really love what I do. For those who may not know me, I was a police officer for 20 years. And I retired when I was elected to county sheriff, and I did that for a term and a half. And to be honest, I was looking for a new challenge. I didn't really like what I was doing because we were selling people's homes in sheriff sales. And one of the saddest days in my career there was when we had to sell a home belonging to one of my close relatives. And I'll never forget that one of the investors kind of leaned over and said, "Hey, that's the sheriff's brother." And it really struck a chord with me, because people aren't numbers, right? And oftentimes, whether it's in government or in other types of organizations, people are treated like numbers and not like people. And so when that happened to me and my family, I realized that, I didn't have any discretion. I couldn't stop that sale from happening, and any of the other 350 sales we were doing every month. So I was looking for something new. I didn't have, when I mentioned discretion, that means I couldn't say no to a subpoena. I couldn't say no to a goods and chattels sale. I couldn't say no to a share sale. So I was fortunate and blessed to be elected insurance commissioner back in 2016. And, it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot of things, and I've helped a lot of people. I could tell you 1,000 stories about people who we have helped, but to just kind of, from a health insurance perspective, to give you just one quick story, and one that resonates with me and has for a long time. I received a call from a lady who said her husband is about my age, in his mid-50s, who was suffering from colon cancer. And he had undergone treatment about 2 years before, and they thought that the treatment went well. And of course, he went for a follow-up, and they found it came back. So his physician had determined that the best course of therapy would be proton therapy. Well, the insurance company denied it and said that proton therapy was experimental. Well, we all know that maybe at one point years ago it was experimental, but it has been covered by other insurance companies, and it's been a FDA approved treatment for some time. So they called me, and she was naturally quite upset. And we called the insurance company, and within 1 hour, the insurance company changed their mind and paid for this therapy. The family called me back a few days later crying, and it's kind of emotional for me because this person was my age, right? I mean, he was dealing with something that his physician said this was the best course of action. And we agreed, but the insurance company didn't. So it was that one phone call. And, the thing is, insurance companies don't want to be on our bad side, right? So oftentimes, and I know you know this because we've worked with your office, when we call, a lot of times, and most often, there's a positive resolution for the consumer. It's not all the time. Unfortunately, sometimes, believe it or not, people don't tell us the truth, right? And then other times we simply don't have jurisdiction over plans like Medicare and Medicaid and state-funded or self-funded plans. So it doesn't mean that we can't try. And so we get calls all the time from people who have either different types of insurance, or they have an issue with Social Security, for example. Not our jurisdiction, but we can make a phone call for them, and we can speak to someone instead of having to go through all the prompts and having real challenge calling one of these large companies. So that's the best part of the job for me, is helping people, and something that I look forward to doing in the future.
Well, definitely your office is very powerful. Insurance companies, they do not want to get any calls from you, most likely. And that's going to be part of our discussion. But just so that people have a good understanding of your office duties, protecting insurance consumers, regulating companies to ensure ability to pay claims, reviewing, approving, and disapproving rates submitted by insurance companies, which happens every year, prosecuting insurance fraud, licensing insurance agents and brokers, and there are so many other really important tasks that your office is responsible for, and that's why it makes it really important for us to have an efficient insurance commissioner and insurance commissioner's office. And I believe working with your office, and honestly, we did not work with the insurance commissioner's office as close as we did with your term, during your term. So many people probably don't even know what your office can actually do. So that's probably why they don't know. And that was one of the things that when we met you 7 years ago, I realized that we have to really know what's available to us from the business owner standpoint, from the residents. So this is really important. So I will actually ask you some questions, but I do want to bring up one of our issues because you mentioned earlier, which actually it was one of my learnings from our meeting, jurisdiction and what you are regulating. So I think this is one of my issues that as we work with the different companies, different insurance providers. Now, as you know, value-based is one of our main focus from the healthcare provider standpoint. So the issue that I'm seeing more and more for us is understanding what is actually an insurance. So like why I'm saying that is because like when we look at Delaware market, so that's about 20 to 22% is Medicare, which is regulated by federal government, CMS, Center of Medicare and Medicaid. Then we have Medicaid, which is about 25 to 30% almost. So that's regulated by the Medicaid. It's a different department, if I'm not mistaken. So then that that gives us about 50% of the commercial. But what we find in the commercial market is 75% of that is a self-funded employers,
Sure,
which
like the state plan.
Yeah, which exactly, which leaves your office out, kind of. So that leaves us a very kind of like small group. But then when you look at it, healthcare providers day to day, what you'll see is we deal with those claims just like, for us, it doesn't matter if it's like self-funded or fully insured. For us, it's everything the same.
Yeah.
And Medicare, I understand. Medicaid, I don't. But also this self-funded. So I have this. I start sharing these some of the business tools that I have, and then one of them is playing in the video on the third screen. So this is like a current situation and an ideal state. So then you kind of see the issues on one side, and then where we want to be as an ideal state, and what are the barriers. So knowing how powerful and efficient your office can be, but then also, given the fact today is district jurisdiction is going to be applied to a small group of plans out there, what can be done so that your office can actually see more than just the fully insured populations?
Well, what we have done is we're working with the General Assembly to, and this is something that seems kind of silly, but the insurance cards, right? The insurance card could be Highmark, it could be a Medicare plan, it could be a state-funded plan, it could be a plan that's purchased on the exchange, right? So we want to make that clear on the cards for the physicians, so that they know if whether it's a Medicare plan, so it's their, or a self-funded plan, so that when they're billing, they have a better idea of how they should be reimbursed. And that came from visiting with folks from the medical society, trying to determine, some things that we could do to help not only ACOs, but primary care physicians. And, it seems like, our hospital systems are buying up these family care physicians. They're buying up the visiting nurses, the physical therapists.
Private practices.
Yeah, so private practice are suffering, right? So one of the things that we did with the General Assembly was pass a bill that is the primary care bill, so that physicians who are in the business of primary care are reimbursed at a higher rate. It was modeled off of a Rhode Island initiative, so that the ultimate goal was to increase reimbursement for primary care at a rate of about 12%. And we are in the second or third year of that now. We'll be entering the third year, and it's been successful, but not to the level that we would like. And you were absolutely correct when you had mentioned the challenges with Medicare and Medicaid and self-funded plans, because we don't regulate them. However, I serve on the SEBC, that's the State Employee Benefits Committee, we work with SBO, which is the State Benefits Office, and we are working with them to try to get them to come on board with this bill, meaning that they too would be reimbursing physicians at a higher rate. It would ultimately, in the beginning, probably cost a little bit more, but we know early intervention, right? And we know that the first steps are either their primary care docs or an organization like yours, where you diagnose someone early, right? Mm-hmm. You catch it before it becomes a situation where they have to be hospitalized with a cardiac issue or cancer or things like that. So you spend money early to save it in the long run. So it's a challenge to get any bill passed when it has a fiscal note attached to it, right? So we were able to absorb some of the costs of this. We call it the Office of Value-Based Healthcare Delivery, and our initiatives to try to hold the costs down while increasing reimbursement for physicians. So how do you do that? We do that by having some of the larger hospitals take a haircut, right? So that they don't see these significant increases that they've seen year after year after year, so that we can put more money into primary care, with the challenge of not raising premiums. And I will tell you that on the exchange this year, premiums did go up, but it was 2 to 3% in some cases, as high for the small group as around just under 5%. So it's working. In other words, the healthcare on the commercial healthcare on the exchange has stabilized. When I first started, we were seeing rate increases of 20, 30, 35%. And it was unsustainable.
It's about 40 to 47% actually from our own plans that we have from United Medical.
Say that again.
It's about 40 to 47% increase we have since 2016. This is for United Medical's health insurance and also 2 of my other practices. So we pay about 40 to 47% more depending on the group size right now since 2016. But I know that's not related to your office because it is, your office has oversight on that, but the pressure that we get from the insurance companies, from the hospitals, is probably pushing that. But I think you have you actually got to a point of the primary care bill, which was one of the really best bill for the private practices for primary care.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that what I was asking you earlier, increasing the jurisdiction, at least for these self-funded plans. Because what happens when you have the primary care bill, when you look at it, you actually, the bill itself is only for fully insured plans. So we actually, we work with Brian Townsend. He's been on this show at least 3 or 4 times.
And David Benz, he was a representative.
David Benz, and then there's others, but Brian actually came to us, and then he was part of this show for 3 or 4 times. And then one of the things we realized during these conversations is when we were expecting the Medicare allowable from other insurances, we realized that it was not the case because the bill didn't include the self-funded plans. And that wasn't the bill's fault. That's because of the jurisdiction issue that it's not overseeing those. So that's why I'm asking, can we actually fix that? And who do we need to work with to make sure that these self-funded plans are not acting independently, so that they should be treated like a fully insured plans, just like any others? So that was kind of like where I was trying to go.
No, I understand. We would have to change the state law. And that would be something that, Senator Townsend could perhaps look into. I know Representative Dave Benz, who was a big supporter, he has retired from the General Assembly, but Brian Townsend and I in my office, we have regular contact with him and other folks that are part of the primary care collaborative. But, no commissioner in any of the 50 states and the 6 territories has jurisdiction over these ERISA plans or these plans like this state plan. And that's codified in state law. So if we were to try to, and I did watch, some of the other interviews that you've done, you can't just change a regulation. The regulation essentially explains the law. So, it would require a change in the code, and then we would change our regulations to essentially explain the code to the industry.
And, this is one of the things that I was saying before with other interviews, being a smaller state, sometimes it comes with its own advantages. And I was thinking that this would maybe one of them where we can, because when you don't have, when the law doesn't apply to everyone equally, and when the expenses are being paid by everyone equally, unfortunately. So then there has to be some, responsibilities and ownership and accountability. And the only way that we can be more accountable if we are able to, if the state is overseeing some of those. So because if the private practice doesn't stay in business, the insurance and healthcare cost is just going to go out of the roof. So, but I know we'll be reaching out to you for more maybe detailed discussion on this issue, because I just wanted to kind of see what your position would be. And I know last week we have Kyle Evans-Gay. She's running for the Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
And she, from the principal standpoint, she understands the issue just like the way you did. But I think these things needs to be kind of addressed because physician shortage, primary care, family physician, pediatrician shortage is real. So it's not, it's if we leave these to the hospital systems, not only it's going to shortage, it's still going to continue, but it's going to be more expensive. So I'm just here to support our private practices. Now, being in this position for 7 years, I'm sure there are a lot of things that you were planning to do, and some of them you did, and some of them you did, maybe you are planning to do in the future. Mm-hmm. So what are the biggest accomplishments from your point that you have done in the last 7 years?
Wow. Well, we'll start with the exchange. I mean, when I first started, it was Highmark and United on the exchange, and United left. And it's funny that people can blame the inexperienced insurance commissioner on the fact that they left the state of Delaware. Well, that must be pretty powerful.
Just know that this United is not us. This United is United Healthcare. So yes. Not United.
Yeah. It was actually, I'm sorry, it was Aetna. And so Aetna left, and they left. It must be pretty powerful because they left every state, right? So it wasn't a matter of the regulation or the regulators in Delaware. It was the fact that they were hemorrhaging, tens of millions of dollars every year. Fast forward to where we are today, we now have 4 insurance companies offering insurance on the exchange. And in many cases, individuals can purchase insurance at no cost or around $10, depending on their financial situation. We were able to pass what's called a 1332 waiver. That's a reinsurance waiver that's sponsored by the federal government. And probably 4 years ago. And within the first 2 years of that waiver being passed, we lowered premiums on the exchange by 20%. And so it has stabilized in Delaware, and we're doing really, really well with respect to that. Now, let's talk about other types of insurance. Workers' compensation insurance. For the last 7 straight years, workers' compensation insurance rates have plummeted. This year, it'll be another year of double-digit decreases. So this really helps business owners. Sometimes people get confused and they think that if we lower the premiums, the benefits are lowered, and that's not the case. And sometimes we have to make sure that we point that out. But we are successful in Delaware partially because of our workplace safety program. This program that we offer can lower premiums an additional up to 19% for people who participate in it. So it's only about 11 or 1,200 companies in the state who participate in workplace safety. And that's one of our challenges, and what we're looking forward to do in the future is promoting it so that more companies can take advantage of it. But one of the most important bills that we work with the General Assembly that we passed that I'm most proud of was House Bill 80. And House Bill 80 dealt with homeowners and private auto insurance. You see, insurance companies were using data like your credit score in a manner which was unfairly discriminatory. So they were using information like your marital status, your employment, your education, your zip code. I mentioned your credit score. Or your lack of credit. So they were using all of these things to unfairly discriminate against people because let's face it, if you're a young person, you may not even have credit, right? Or if your spouse has passed away and now you're single, insurance companies should not be able to charge you more or higher premiums for that. So House Bill 80 made all of those underwriting initiatives illegal. I will say that insurance companies can use your credit score, but they can use it only to your benefit. So if you allow them to look at your credit score, you could likely lower your premiums. So other things that we have accomplished has to deal with arbitration, and we've helped people, businesses alike, through our state-sponsored arbitration program. Last year alone, we helped people recover approximately $750,000 that went to people instead of to insurance companies. And over the years, it's been millions that we have helped people recover.
That's what makes your office really powerful, right? So not just because you're able to oversee these plans and insurance companies, but you are actually able to find them. So these are public records. In 2021, Cigna got $382,000 fine. American General Life Insurance, $106,000. And I know there are a couple other big ones recently, but these are public records, and that's why it makes, again, my point a little bit stronger. So if this applies to the self-funded plans, so we can probably have more support because companies are going to be worried about these types of numbers, so they don't want to be fined. So because if I'm not mistaken, between Highmark and Aetna, they have 600,000 in the last 2 years. I may be off a little bit.
We did a MAPIA exam. That's the mental health parity exam, and we found that Highmark and the 3 other large insurers were not in compliance with our law. In other words, if you were injured and you went to see a physician and you were treated for an injury, right? Versus if you had a mental health or a substance abuse illness, they were treating you differently. Everything from prescriptions, the amount of care needed to the time for a rehab facility, they were doing it differently. And we fined them over $1.5 million all told for those violations. That was about 2 years ago. We're actually going back now to see if they made the changes that we told them to. And if they didn't, they'll see a significant fine again. So we do hold insurance companies accountable for fulfilling their obligations. And oftentimes when they see these fines, it's not de minimis because it's significant, but they almost see it as if it's the cost of doing business. So the key is the public has to come to us when they have their challenges, right? So we did the mental health test or the exam because it was time to do it. But other findings that we found against insurance companies were just generated from people who, for example, didn't get their discount because they had taken defensive driving classes. And we had a person call us when it wasn't applied to him. We did an interrogatory, so we sent information to the insurance company. And they're pretty slick. They'll cherry pick certain policies and accounts. But we are able to determine that they weren't giving people their discounts. And not only did they have to give them the discounts, we find them as well. So the key is the public needs to tell us, back to your earlier point about what we actually do at the department. We help people with insurance challenges. We don't sell insurance.
True. So then what's for the future then? Like, what are the things that you are still planning to do, but you weren't able to do in the last 7 years?
Well, our volunteer fire service is one of our jewels of the state of Delaware. People who actually volunteer their time, put their lives on the line for people like you and me, whether it's auto accident or house fire. And we have been working with them over the last several years to address their reimbursement. We just got the volunteer fire service reimbursed at a higher rate for their ambulance transportation. They were being reimbursed at a rate lower than Medicare. So I didn't know, right? There's no way for me to know that. So they met with us. We met with the industry and we got that fixed. And we're now looking to help them with a reimbursement for rescue billing. So if they have to remove you from a car because your car was seriously damaged in an accident, and they have to use these extra materials, these extra tools to extricate you from a vehicle, they should all be reimbursed at a uniform rate. And what we found is in some cases, they weren't reimbursing at all. In other cases, that was only a fraction of what they should be getting. So we have been working with the volunteer fire service to do that. We're continuing our work with the primary care collaborative because this is something that is really important to us because we're trying to maintain and keep primary care docs in business. So one of the things that is important to us is that not only are we getting reimbursement at a higher rate for them, but we're also working with some of the insurers. They've offered Highmark, for example, $4 million for grants for companies. And we know places like Westside Health, who provide a fantastic service for people in the city of Wilmington and other parts of Kent, Sussex County. They received a significant grant to support their day-to-day operations. So there's just one other thing, and there's lots of things that I could tell you about that I'm planning on doing, but top of mind, I'm the chair of the Anti-Fraud Task Force for the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. So we are looking at lead generators, specifically for people who are on Medicare. It's open enrollment period now, so people are getting inundated with phone calls and letters and emails. And in some cases, they're actually knocking on people's doors to convince them or try to convince them to switch to a Medicare Advantage plan, which many cases people don't understand what they're signing up for. So we're looking to put an end to this nefarious actions by these lead generators. The challenge is, and we've already been lobbying Congress to give us state-based regulators the authority to regulate the commercials that you see, the J.J. Walker or the William Shatner commercials that you see on television. They're so misleading for people. Joe Namath, I had one lady call and say, I want that Joe Namath plan. Well, we don't even sell that in Delaware. That was a Philadelphia TV station. But you see, this is what they do. They think that they'll find someone in your past that they loved or they trusted or a show, that they watched and enjoyed, and they think that they can trust these people. And the truth is, I don't think these actors are bad eggs. I just think that the products they're selling are misleading and in some cases damaging to the consumer.
So because you mentioned a couple of the organizations, so one of the issues that I also see for private practices, this issue of being profit versus nonprofit, for-profit versus nonprofit. So, I have multiple different heads. Revenue cycle management, medical billing is our core business. We are an EMR vendor, but also I own a primary care office, one of the probably largest fund right now with 14 or 15 providers. And point of the primary care, the reason I ended up owning that, not because I was looking to own them, just because my clients did not want to deal with the business part of it and said, look, if you don't take over, we are going to join the hospital or we are going to retire earlier. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to lose business if I don't have to give them a platform so then their longevity of their practice can be extended. So that's why I ended up doing it. But one of the things that always is kind of a bitter point for us is like Westside. It's a great organization, yes, but they don't do anything different than what my primary care clinic is doing. Yeah. Medicare, Medicaid, self-pays, they take all those and we take all those. The only difference is we don't see much support from the state government for just because we are labeled as for-profit. So yeah. That's one of the issues that, especially with the pandemic, and as you may know this already, but this channel started because of the pandemic, because we wanted to reach out to the patients and give them another source that can come from clinicians. Like right after this one, Dr. Isaiah Erkan is going to join us. We have this weight loss events, we call them Bariatric Friday. We have so many clinical presentations. So we have a good, solid source of safe information for the patients. And everything else that we are doing is almost same. In fact, we probably end up doing a little bit more, but we don't see the benefit just because of the labeling. Do you think there's any possibility to look into the healthcare organizations in a different way? Again, since it's a small state, I don't see a problem using some names. So I build a primary care office. I spend X dollars. So I don't know if you saw the new Christiana building on 202. That is about 7X. And I know that for fact, so it's factual. and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, so I'm just giving an information, but
Sure.
they're able to spend that money. So the ceiling is so high, in order for me to hit that, meaning that I have to pay the electricity of that, I have to spend 5 times more. Like, well, patients don't need more oxygen in the room, right? So like, why do you need like a 12 to 15 feet ceilings? But they have, because they can.
Yeah.
Their sign itself is so big, humongous. You can see it from the moon. Why? Because they get paid, and then they also get other support. So how can we actually close this gap so that I don't feel this bitter about these issues? So then I can keep my physicians and providers in business.
Yeah. So a couple questions I have for you. Were you even aware of the grant opportunities that Highmark was offering? And I asked you that because you could have applied, and what before you answer, what Westside did, they used it for like some capital improvements, so that it wouldn't take money away from the monies that were going to the, for the treatment. They were using for capital things. And so I don't know if you had the same opportunity as they did.
So if you're referring to the one from the Medical Society of Delaware, there are some issues with the organization, with the Medical Society of Delaware, because as you know, we are one of the 4 ACOs.
Yeah.
So is Medical Society of Delaware. So they are a competitor to us. Although they should be like a kind of professional organization that's not a vendor, but they turn into a vendor, which they sell insurance, malpractice, they make insurance contracts, and they have an ACO, Accountable Care Organization, with St. Francis Hospital Partnership. So prior to that, in 2014, the reason we couldn't become an ACO because they give the exclusivity, Highmark, to Medical Society of Delaware. So then they almost put us out of business. They said either you are going to be joining us or there's not, no chance for you. I mean, luckily we were able to manage those situations, but working through the Medical Society of Delaware is not a viable option for many of the physicians. And I'm actually not just voicing out my physicians, but others as well. So it's, I think they really need to get away from providing paid service. So then they are not a competitor for any businesses. So because they shouldn't be, it's a society, like medical society. So then everyone should feel like, okay, this is an objective organization, but now maybe they do it because they need more money in order to support the admin. I don't know, but they're in the ACO business. So
yeah, I'd be more than happy to sit down and have these types of conversations with my friends at the Medical Society, with my friends from the Accountable Care organizations, with my friends from the primary care practice, because there are opportunities out there. But to your point earlier, the hospitals do have a significant unfair advantage, and those hospitals are also nonprofit, right? So they can afford to build these facilities. They can afford to buy these doc-in-a-box shops, and it's really not fair. That's why I'm not sure if your organization is considered a center of excellence or not for surgeries and things like that.
So actually, my surgery center, American Surgery Center on Folk Road, out of 9,300 surgery centers in the United States, there are only 10 of them have the Center of Excellence for Bariatric, and we are one of those 10.
Yeah. So
I do this despite the fact that there's Christiana, there's Bay Health, all those giants out there, and I'm just like a 3 OR surgery center, and I still have the Center of Excellence because we are able to do that. The thing is, it's not about getting paid more; it's about the efficiency, and that's what we see with these insurance companies. Then hospitals, they are kind of like their focus is how can we spend more? That means how can we charge more? Yeah. So then you and I, we end up talking about how can we control the increasing the cost of medical insurance. So that's what I realize in all these last 23 years in this business. Every day, every year is a big step for us to learn more and more. And there's always something. There's always something. That's why I want your office to be more powerful to oversee the TPA, the third-party administrator side of it, because there are so many challenges. Like one of the things that I want to mention to you, which I didn't know this until maybe 3-4 years ago, there's a term used, most favored nation clause. So, I have business and political science degrees, computer degrees. I have 2 MBAs. And when I hear that, all I'm thinking about is this is a diplomatic relationship between countries. Well, I was wrong. So why?
Yeah.
Because this is most favored nation clause is used in healthcare, right? So, and if we don't actually have this TPA side of closely looked into, then there may be some, back office deals that's not being visible to us. And then we are actually end up paying more and more because they have some deals on the back.
So, reason why I asked you about the Centers for Excellence, because as a member of the SEBC, that's the State Employee Benefits Committee, we are pushing our own population to these Centers of Excellence for these types of treatments, because we know the hospital could be 5, 6, 7, 10 times more expensive. If you have to have an X-ray, we want you to go to a standalone facility or an MRI or some other procedure, because at the hospital, it's just outrageous. So I didn't know for sure that you owned or were part of a Center for Excellence, but I figured you were, because I knew how prominent you were in Delaware. But so, we wouldn't say, hey, go to Kemal's place, right? But what we would say is, don't go to the hospital, because we know by doing that, we save money for the state. So I don't have regulatory authority over the state, but I'm a part of the benefits committee, the State Employee Benefits Committee. So we make these recommendations to send people to places outside the hospital to save significant dollars, to places like Centers for Excellence.
So, no, actually, this is a really good conversation, because I also want people who listens to us to understand how important your office is.
Yeah.
Many people don't, like when I say insurance commissioner's office, they're like, what do you mean? Like, oh, we can't actually do this. We can file a claim, or we can do this on behalf of someone. I'm like, yeah, well, this office actually is not only just there, but it's a very powerful office. And the one thing that insurance companies hate the most is getting that call when they don't do their job. Right. Yeah, so that's I think there's more to do together. And that's why also we want to make sure that when these decisions, these regulations are being made, we want to be part of it. Because I represent just in Delaware 180 different physicians providers, nationwide close to 400 from different specialties. Just like this year, the projection total number of appointments is over 500,000. That's about 115,000 individuals in Delaware going through our system, receiving some service from us. And I take this very seriously, and I want to make sure that people are aware of what's available to them, and protecting elderlies, protecting kids, and protecting those who are in the most difficult time of their life. Because when we need insurance, usually it's not when we are all healthy and happy. It's usually when we have some big issues. And so my last question for today, and then we can cover other things if you like. And I asked this to Kyle Gay last week. Do you think there's a future for tort reform, medical malpractice liability reform in Delaware, just so that we can actually maybe have some handle on the increased cost from the healthcare service standpoint?
Yes, the answer is yes. I mean, other states have done this. Pennsylvania passed a bill, a tort reform bill, and what that means is that puts a cap or a restriction on the amounts that people can sue for, and it can be anything from medical malpractice to an auto accident. Some of the challenges would be, you would have to have some of the powerful people in Delaware to agree to that. And I don't know that the Trial Lawyers Association, what their stance is on that. I would like to know, but I haven't had a conversation with them specifically. But that is one way to help control the costs of all types of insurance. You see, in Florida, for example, they had 11 insurance companies that went insolvent last year. Everyone thought it was really because of the hurricanes and the large convective storms that were popping up, and that had a big part of it. But one part that folks didn't see was the litigation costs. If you drive through Florida, every billboard is, call us if you have an issue with your insurance companies. And some of these companies, law firms were purchasing computer clicks, so that if you typed in, hurricane relief or insurance issues, would go to their law firm, not necessarily to an insurance company. And so it is a real challenge, not just here in Delaware, not just in Florida, but across the country and across the globe. I think that would be one way that we could lower premiums if we could get a handle on some of the litigation costs that are associated with whether they're accidents or medical claims and any other line of insurance.
So one, I did say last question, but I lied actually. I have one.
That's okay.
So because it's an election, and then sometimes when we have challengers, you have to go through the primary, which in this case you aren't going to be. The person who, I believe there's only one person so far, Coyote Abeganda, he was with us 2-3 weeks ago. These elections can be surprising. I was a close witness of that in 2008 when Jack Markell was running against John Carney, and John was the favorite and was supported by the party and all that. But then with a very slim margin, Jack Markell was able to get the primary. If I'm not mistaken, 1,800 votes in total. So do you see that as a challenge for 2024? And because it's another Democrat who's running. So there's always the challenges of how far do you want to go with this, right? So, but what do you think, how you are going to overcome that challenge for 2024?
Well, of course, I take it seriously. I've met Coyote. We've had coffee. I like him. He's a genuinely good person. And he feels as if he's qualified for the position, as do I. This is how the process works. I mean, to be candid, I had a primary against the incumbent myself, and I was very fortunate to be able to prevail. I think my credentials and my experience and my history makes me the right person. But if the electorate in Delaware think that Coyote's the right guy, it's something I'd have to live with, and that's okay. That's part of the process, and it should be open and it should be fair. And and I will tell you that our interactions have been nothing but positive, and that's how it should be. I don't think people in Delaware like negative, and it doesn't. No one really ever gains anything from that. So he hasn't said anything negative about me, and I certainly have said nothing but I have respect for him, and I wish him and his family well.
Well, very good. Well, Trinidad Navarro was our guest today. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Our goal is to bring you guys back in 2024, maybe 3-4 months prior to the primaries. We have for the rest of this year, Cher Walker, I believe she's going to be with us, not 100% confirmed with Sean, but Sarah McBride is going to be with us on November 3rd, and Bethany Longhold, she's going to be with us in December, as well as Lisa Rochester. And then we'll start a new cycle for 2024, and we want to see you again. And I know we'll be bothering your office with our other issues on a day-to-day anyway. Well, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. It's never a bother. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. All right, Mr. Donovan, are you?
I'm here, yeah.
Your video is off.
Oh. See if you can see me now. Oh.
All right.
There it is. Hello.
Hello. So we have 7 minutes before our bariatric Friday. Last week we started talking about Israel and Palestinian conflict. But before we go to that, and which we won't be able to go too far anyway, what did you think about the Insurance Commission?
So again, a very successful session, I think, in my opinion. I think he was well prepared. He's been doing this, for 7 years now, so he should know the ins and outs of the business, which it seems he did. Wasn't, caught up or stumbled on any of the questions. It seemed like he was informed on the topics we were talking about. And I think it's good that he recognized that although he has made certain achievements and accomplishments, there is still other work to be done. I feel like in any position, if you are incumbent, you never want to say you've done everything.
Yeah.
Because then what's the point? Like if you think you've accomplished everything there is, then it's not realistic. So I think it was good that he still did recognize there's other things out there that can be attained, and the fact that he at least has a generic approach on how he's gonna get to those goals.
So now, because of the time, if we go into the Israel issue, I don't think there will be enough time. And
yeah,
in fact,
6 minutes is not a respectable amount for everything that's going
right.
on.
So based on what happens next week with Sherry Walker, we may be able to spend more time, but I'm just worried that it's going to be too late, because in my opinion, I think we'll see a lot of terrible pictures in the next several days. And it's pretty scary what's happening there. Solution is not easy. And again, in my opinion, I don't think we are managing the situation well. Another war, another region, another 100 billion is being asked to provide. The sad part is when Biden was explaining that, he said, well, it's going to help our economy because we make weapons and our workers are working those. That, just like, in the last 3 years, every day in Tigray is just like what's happening today in Israel and Palestine. So every day in the last 3 years is same, but no one talks about it, right? So the hypocrisy is so loud that people actually this is one of those times that I'm probably most disappointed with some of the newsmakers. Megyn Kelly is one of them. There are only a few people who are objectively able to really provide good information, objective news, and how people can be so blind and crazy just for going after people and killing and killing and killing. This is just it's a sad time for history. So just because our topic is healthcare related, I mean, it's a clinical one, and we won't be able to keep Dr. Erkan too long on that other side. So I want to kind of keep to the not short necessarily, but we don't want to go into this. Maybe we'll do one in between. I don't know, but there are so many things needs to be discussed, and I'm just worried.
Yeah, I think a lot's going to unravel, like you said, in the next week or so. So it's almost just like a waiting game at this point.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back in a couple of minutes with Bariatric Friday. As you can see, my background did already run out. That means we are already 57 minutes. So we'll be back with Bariatric Friday, and we'll see you guys